Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm screen sharing this correctly, so we'll see when I go to edit it. I'm sorry that I didn't post this last week. I don't really have a good excuse except that my ever amazing partner got tickets to see Metallica on Friday and Saturday night, which was really exciting because we kind of like leaned over the railing and high-fived the band members. And then way more exciting for me, sorry, Metallica, was that we did the same thing with Five Finger Death Punch. And then honestly, I was just too tired to post a video because I was exhausted from both like screaming during the songs and the anxiety of fangirling and all that stuff. But here we are now to discuss pet nats. I've been having some really good conversations about pet nats. I went back to that natural wine bar with my friend Molly, and we had some really fun wine conversations. And I had a pet nat of Gamay, which was just a or was it a spark? I think it was like I mean, they're sparkling. We'll talk about that in a minute. They are frizzante. But it was delicious. That's really the gist of it. So moving forward, the only thing I'm going to say is I was a little bit too lazy to try to put the accent over the E. So for all future instances, wherever it says pet or pétillant, just to pretend that accent's there and we will move forward with our lives. Okay, so the topics today will be what is pet nat's origin story, who, where, when, finding and filtering, and then we will do, of course, some drinking. All right, what is pet nat? And I got this visual off of Unsplash. You can see the credits down in the lower left-hand corner. These are honestly probably like soda and beer caps. I didn't really take a good look, but these crown caps are what are used on most pet nats. You can see them in kind of this one. You'll see them more up close. And also this one, I haven't uncapped them because we're gonna do a fun little visual towards the end. So pétillant means sparkling. Naturel, not surprisingly, means natural. So these are naturally sparkling wines, and it gives us a good excuse to talk about the ancestral method. And this is where you will find, I had specific pictures that I wanted to show you, and I couldn't find any online, so I tried to draw them. And yeah, I'm not a great, illustrating is not in my future. But the first step of making this wine, like anything else, is to pick the grapes. So the vintners will go out, they'll find the grapes that they want to use. We'll get to which grapes in just a moment. And then they put the grapes, this is number 2, they put the grapes in a press, which kind of looks like that if you really squint and use your imagination. So all the grapes grow in the press. They press the juice. Now they have the juice, and we start a partial fermentation. So that's what number 3 is. Those are the bubbles coming off of the yeast eating the sugars, making the carbon dioxide. We are partially fermented. Not all of the yeast has eaten all of the sugar. There's still some left when we go to bottle it. So now we have bottled the juice in this beautiful bottle that I have drawn in step number 4. And then the fermentation continues in the bottle. So that's what number 5 is supposed to be. Those are again supposed to be bubbles coming out of the bottle. So the bottle is capped, the fermentation is continuing, and that's what gives us the slight fizz. Now this isn't 2 fermentations, that's champagne or prosecco. Those get fermented twice. This is just 1 fermentation where half takes place outside of the bottle and half takes place inside the bottle. And that's why you end up with sort of a lighter fizz of bubbles rather than the aggressive bubbles that you might get with champagne. And then of course, the 6th step is to drink it. So that's why we have these cheersing little wine glasses. I hope these illustrations entertained you, if nothing else. All right, the origin story of pet nats is actually somewhat unknown. So it was probably the 1500s, and it was probably in France, but it might have been in Jura. We don't really know for sure. There's no good record of it. We're just kind of guessing. And also, much like champagne, it was probably an accident where they had grape juice and they were storing it. And then they were like, oh, this is fizzy. This is kind of fun. And then they were a little drunk, so they thought it was even more fun. That's pure speculation on my part. But things are really, pretty fun when you're drinking fermented grape juice. Then kind of a huge gap in this timeline. But right about when natural wine was really starting to become popular and people were saying like, oh, this is kind of cool because it has these earthier tastes and you've got more of the personality of the terroir, blah, blah, blah. So this is between like 2015-ish and 2020-ish. this is when pet nats really started to pick up in their popularity and really like gaining momentum on the wine scene. And then now, which is 2024, so if you're watching this video in, 2025, I'm talking about this year right now, 2024, it's just very on brand for today's customer. So because of the way the fermentation process happens, it's usually a little bit lower in alcohol. This one's 11%, and the rosé I have, legally it has to be on here somewhere. Well, I'll maybe find, oh, there we go, 9.5. So like these are not high alcohol wines, which means you can kind of buy them. They're pretty inexpensive. Of course you're buying them. Anyway, they're pretty inexpensive. You can pop them open, split a bottle with friends, and like you might get a little bit of a buzz, but it's about as much as like a hardcore beer. So you're not getting drunk off these. They're fun, they're fresh, they're funky. I read something that was like they're almost like the Muppets of the wine world. Like they're colorful, they're cute, they're fun and weird, and it's just really, really good for today's kind of consumer, customer branding, marketing, etc. And then I put a bunch of question marks with the future because, as we've discussed, the future of drinking is very unclear to me. Well, the future of wine and drinking is somewhat unclear to me. I will just love wine in all of its many forms forever. So will a lot of wine lovers. Where the industry and the market goes, well, I'm not in it, so I don't really know. So I'm excited as we all journey forth in our wine drinking and our pet nat drinking and our cocktails and beer and whatever. I'm so intrigued to see what the future does hold for us. Okay, so usually, it's the 5 W's and it's who, what, where, when, why, and then how, but really all we care about with this is where, what, and when. So the where is everywhere. There's actually no real specific place anymore. So whether it started in France or started in Jura, it doesn't matter anymore. It's made, everywhere. So I looked up this article on Food and Wine. Fret not, it's credited at the end. And we have Le Grand Stephen Nouveau-Né from Loire Valley, Stoltman Vineyards Combe Pet Nat Trousseau from California. I'm not going to keep saying all of the names because they're quite lengthy, but we have one that doesn't say where it's from. Slovenia, Malvasia. I think Linda Vista is in California again. The Czech Republic, Portugal, Australia, another California. So these are made all over the world. And then similarly, you can really do any grape with this also because it is a method, not a specific varietal, not anything like that. This is just the way it is made. And so on this same list, we have some really fun and less usual grapes. I'm trying to go back to the top. So oh, and there's also one from Maine that sounds really good. So I need to try to get a hold of that one. But yes, these people use the Valdiguier grape. We have, that one doesn't say. There was a really cool one. Oh yeah, so obviously, well, the Trousseau uses Trousseau grapes. This one's a Chenin Blanc grape. This one sounds amazing. It's got Sylvaner, Gelber, Muscateller, Gewürztraminer, Kerner, and Muller Thurgau, which just sounds crazy. This one uses Puro. This one doesn't say what it is. We got some Chardonnays, another Muller Thurgau. So I just think it's really neat when they use, or like, oh, this one is Vermentino and Fiano. Like, it just sounds incredible. And I think it's an interesting way to maybe get some unusual grapes on the market. Now, the when, so we've talked kind of about vintage champagnes and then non-vintage champagnes, and you can kind of age whatever. You just need to be careful with the non-vintages. The vintage champagnes are usually meant to be aged a little bit. Pet nats you want to drink either the same year they're made or the next year. These are not aged wines, which again makes them very appealing to today's market. You buy it, you drink it. You don't have to store it in a cellar. You don't have to worry about the conditions. You just pick it up from the store, maybe throw it in an ice bucket, and then drink it. And it's already ready. So that's kind of fun with these. If you're looking for bubbles to save, do champagne. If you're looking for bubbles to drink right now, try a pet nat. Okay, this is the fun part where we're going to try to do a visual, although with the sharing screen, it can be kind of hard. So cloudy wines, and this has to do a lot with the natural wines and the way they are made. So when people talk about fining and filtering wine, fining is when you put stuff in the wine to get stuff out, and filtering is when you put wine through stuff to get stuff out. So fining is essentially, I made a note here so I don't, yes, colloids. So colloids are like your tannins, your phenolics, your polysaccharides. And what you do is you put a substance into the liquid that binds to it. You can also say it coagulates to it, but that kind of makes some people like grossed out, kind of like the word moist bothers people, coagulate bothers people. It binds to it, and it basically makes you able to see it, touch it, pull it out of the wine. Filtering is something that probably makes a lot more sense to most people. I mean, it's the same thing you do with like cheesecloth or anything like that. You pour the wine through a mesh screen usually, and it catches stuff. So if you don't fine and filter, you will still have like the spent yeast or the lees in the bottle. You'll still have other molecules in the the bottle. Whereas when you see your clear wines, like you see most of the time, those have been fined and filtered. So I took, rather than trying to find pictures on the internet, I just took pictures. So we'll come back to this picture that's on your screen now, and we'll go forward. The picture's on the left-hand side. So this is the rosé coming straight from the basement. I set it down, took a picture. If you look at the very bottom where it's rounded out, it's clear. And when I turned it upside down, it was clear. Now, if you look at the white, you can see on the very bottom, it's like maybe a couple millimeters of sediment. And when I turn it over, you look at the very last picture, you can see it starting to swirl around. So that sediment will get shaken up and moved around in the bottle. Now, unlike when we decant old wines, this sediment is typically considered desirable by the people who are making these wines. If you don't like it, you can sometimes set it upright and then chill it, and then all the sediment will stay at the bottom, and then you pour it very carefully. I love it. I think it's part of the pet nat experience to have all of the sediment, the murkiness, the funkiness, just all of that. So I usually will turn it over and shake it before I pour it, and that's what we will do for our fun visual, because of course, after you pour it, and this is, or after you shake it, and this is where we go back, it's cloudy, like in this picture. It's not a clear wine, which I just think is fun and gives it a lot of character. Okay, so hopefully that was short and sweet. So credits, of course, the Food and Wine article, which is where I got all of those names. Wine enthusiast article here if you want to learn a little more about pet nats. And then if you want to learn more about the ancestral method, you can check out the winetraveler.com wine resources stuff. And I will, in fact, show you this cool graph from WSET that talks about all of the different ways to make bubbles. And then, of course, I just want to give a thank you very much to the people I took all that information from, to my partner for putting up with me through all these wine videos, to the Natural Wine Bar, to everyone who watches these and tastes wine with me. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to stop the share, if I remember how. Nice. Okay, so we're back in the kitchen. So here's the chart that I just think is a really cool example. It talks about, let's see if I can do this right. So you have the traditional method for champagne, you have the transfer method, the tank method, that's going to be your Prosecco's, carbonated, Asti method, and this ancestral method over here, which you can see is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. So not very many steps to this method, which is kind of fun also. Now, let's try it. Okay. I have my, oh, and then we'll do, it hasn't really been sitting for very long, so most of the sediment's not settled, but if we turn it over, yeah, no, it's pretty cloudy, so unfortunately that demonstration isn't as cool as it could have been. But this one will stay nice and cloudy, whereas this one is clear, and that you can, that you can definitely see the difference. So we'll pop these open. Oh, interesting. This doesn't fit. Oh, okay. Twist it. Ow. Maybe with not twisting it. Retwist it. I'm gonna edit this out. Ouch. Oh, come here. Oh boy. Oh, you couldn't see because my hand was over it. It's trying to explode. Oh my God. I might have to go get my partner to get this thing off. Oh, okay, there we go. There's one. He just popped his head and he's so ready. My hero. Okay. This is great. Maybe I'll teach this in the video. It's kind of fun. Ouch. All right, there we go. We did it. Yay. Okay, and now we pour. Thanks. And you can see, oops, I should angle this down. You can see there are some beautiful bubbles, but it is not as much as champagne. So I'll pour the other one actually like in front of the camera so you can see these bubbz happening. There we go. Okay, look at this bubble structure that's going to happen. So it never gets as foamy as champagne. The mousse is never quite as aggressive. So now we will do a little tasting and such. So this one, oh, it doesn't tell me what the grapes are. It just says it's a Vino Bianco. Thank you. I figured that. Some blossom. Maybe a little lemon, but also a little grapefruit. So I think I've got some pretty specific citruses there. Maybe a stone fruit. Not white peach, because I've recently become pretty familiar with what white peach smells like to do a rosé tasting. Maybe apricots. And for this one, probably shouldn't mix up my sniffs. Whoa. That's definitely got a funkiness to it, which is interesting because this is the one that's like the sediment free. I have to come back to that. I'm not quite sure what that is. It is funky on the palate though. I love that. It's like, I mean, it's all the flavors I said with a touch of sweet tart. So some sort of tart, sour, candied lemon, I think. And just this like hint of funkiness. I wouldn't even specifically say that it's mushroom or earth or anything specific. It's just this, the je ne sais quoi, as they say, that I can't quite describe. I'll get better at it. This one's wild. Maybe I'll make the partner smell it. He's got a really good aromatic sense. And sometimes when I can't put words to what I'm smelling, he helps me out a lot. I think it's bready though. Mm-hmm. This is very specific, so bear with me. If you have ever had a raspberry cheese Danish, which side I'm pointing at, you are drinking this rosé by eating it. You're drinking that raspberry cheese Danish. I haven't even had any alcohol yet until this. Just very sunburned and tired. But yeah, this is a not on the nose, but on the palate. This is a raspberry cheese Danish. So I will be taking this bottle for myself and possibly not sharing it. But you should share your pet. No, I'm kidding. I'll share these pet nuts. I hope this was somewhat helpful in case you've been hearing the term pet nat and you're like, what is that? Or you see these murky, cloudy wines and you're like, wow, the winemaker messed up. Like that was probably a purposeful choice. They wanted to leave it in there for the fun, for the punk, for the naturalness of it all. They may very well have used ambient yeast, which I'm pretty sure we've discussed. Go grab a pet nat. Maybe do a little research before, because obviously a lot of those grapes I mentioned were somewhat unusual. But while I enjoy almost all wines, definitely have not yet had a pet nat that I didn't enjoy. So we'll see if I can prove myself wrong anytime in the near future. And in the meantime, whatever you're drinking, enjoy. I hope you're having a wonderful day and that this video was somewhat helpful, and I will see you hopefully next week if I can, get it together and actually make the video on time. Cheers.